尊敬的代比总统
President Idris Deby Itno,
尊敬的基塔罗维奇
President Kolinda
尊敬
Grabar-Kitarovic,
的洪森首相
Prime Minister Hun Sen,
尊敬的巴尼主席
President Pani Yathotu of the National
尊敬的
Assembly,
加西亚副总统
Vice President Alvaro Garcia
尊敬
Linera,
的克拉克署长
UNDP Administrator
尊敬
Helen
的
Clark,
陈冯福珍
and WHO Director General Margaret
尊敬
Chan,
的卡马特行长
President K.V.
尊敬
Kamat,
的金立群后任行长
President-elect Jin Liqun,
尊敬的各位使
Your
节
Excellency Ambassadors,
尊敬的各位贵宾
distinguished guests,
女士们先生们
ladies
朋友
and
们
gentlemen, dear friends.
消除贫困
To eradicate
自古
poverty
以来就是
has
人类
always
梦寐以
been a
求的理
dream
想
of the human being,
是各国人民追
and
求
it's
幸福生
also
活
a
的基
basic
本权
right of people of different countries in the pursuit of
第
happy
二
life.
次世界大战结束以来
Since the end of the Second World
消
War,
除贫困
to
是
eradicate
广大
poverty
发展
has
中国家
always
面临
been
的
an
重要任务
important task facing developing countries.
在2000年召开的联合
At
国
the
千年
Millennium
首脑会议上
Summit held at the United Nations in 2000,
通过了
the Millennium
建立
Development
首要目标
Goals
的
with
千年
poverty
发展
alleviation as a main goal was adopted.
那时以来，各
And
国为
since
实
then,
现千年发
all
展目标
countries
采取行
have
动
worked extremely hard to take action to achieve the MDGs.
到今年，
By this year,
全球
we
在
have
消除贫困、
seen huge progress made worldwide
防
on
御疟疾
removing
和
poverty,
肺结核等传染病
providing universal education, preventing and treating malaria, tuberculosis and other infectious diseases, providing clean drinking water, and improving the lives of slum dwellers.
特别是千
In
年发展
particular,
目标中的减贫
The
目标
poverty-related targets in the MDGs have basically been completed, which means a huge
积极的进
and
步。
important progress in global poverty alleviation efforts.
在上个月召开的联合
During
国
the
发展
Sustainable
峰会上
Development Summit held
各
last
国
month,
通过了以减
the
贫为首要目标的
post-2015
2015
development
后
agenda
发
with
展
poverty reduction as a main goal was adopted.
再次向世
And
界
this
展
once
示了
again
社会
demonstrated
携
to
手
the
消除
world
贫困的
the
决心
resolve and confidence of the international community in working together to eradicate poverty.
由于种种原因，
However, due to various
贫富
reasons,
悬殊
problems including a huge gap between the rich and the poor and between the north and the south still exist.
贫困及其衍生出来
Poverty,
的饥饿、
as well as hunger,
疾病、
diseases,
社会冲
social
突
conflicts
等
as a
一系列
result of
依然
poverty
困扰着许
are
多发展
still
中国家
confronting many developing countries.
足还是伤心。
We say in
民
China,
还
when the
是伤
feet
国
are cold in cold, when the feet are left in cold, the heart will be hurt, and when the people are left in cold, the government will be
也
challenged.
为8亿多人仍然在
We're
挨饿
encouraged to see over 1.1 billion people lifted out of poverty, and we are also worried about the 800 million people still suffering from hunger.
任重
We
而
still
道远
face a long uphill journey in reducing poverty worldwide.
我们相聚在北
Today,
京，
we are gathering in Beijing
就是要向世界
in
表
order
明，
to show to the world
我们将加
that we are
强
ready
减
to
贫发展
strengthen
领域
exchange
交
and
流合
cooperation
作
on poverty reduction,
互学
learn from
互鉴
each other,
共享
share
经验
experience,
积极回
and
应和
actively
推动
respond to
2015
and
年后发展
promote
意
the
识的落实
implementation of the post-2015 development agenda.
各位贵宾、女士们、先生们
Distinguished
朋友
guests,
们，
ladies and gentlemen, dear friends,
中国是世界上
China
最大的
is
发展
the
中国
largest
家，
developing country in the world.
一直是世
It
界
has
减
always
贫事业的积
been
极倡导者
advocating
和
and
有力的推动者
promoting poverty reduction in the world.
改革开放
Over
30
the
多
past
年来，
30 plus years since the start of reform and opening up, the Chinese people have worked hard and found
走出了一
a
条中
path
国特
of
色
poverty
减贫道路。
reduction with Chinese characteristics.
我们坚持
We
改
are
革开
committed
放，
to reform and opening up.
保持经济快
Thanks
速
to
增
rapid
长，
economic growth,
不断出
we
台
have
有
put
利
in
于贫困地
place
区和贫困
lots
人
of
口发展的政
policies
策，
that help the poor
为大
areas
规
and the
模
poor
减贫
people
奠定了
and
基
lay
础。
down the foundation for large-scale poverty alleviation programs. We are committed to government-led approaches. Poverty alleviation has been included in the overall strategy of national development, and we have also launched large-scale poverty alleviation actions, formulated and implemented programs targeting at specific groups, including women, children, persons with disabilities, as well as ethnic minority groups. We are committed to development-focused poverty alleviation principles. Development is the fundamental way to alleviate poverty. And we are doing both poverty alleviation and at the same time motivating those poor people so that they would improve their ability of development and we could bring the best out of these people. We are committed to the full participation of all sectors of the society. Relying on the strength of the Chinese systems, we have built a pattern of poverty alleviation, including the concerted efforts of the government, the society, and the market. And we have also put in place a system for poverty alleviation, participated by different regions, departments, institutions, and the whole society. We are committed to both inclusive and preferential policies. We have implemented the program of alleviating 80 million people from poverty in 7 years, from 1993 to 2000, the poverty alleviation program in rural areas from 2001 to 2010, and the new development program between 2011 to 2020. While improving inclusive policies to the rural areas, farmers, and agriculture, we have also provided preferential policies to the poor people so that all people are adequately supported and well looked after. Thanks to the concerted efforts of the Chinese government, the whole society, and the people in those poor areas, and also thanks to the active support of the international community, over 600 million people in China have been lifted out of poverty. By 2015, the MDGs would have been basically completed in China. And China will become the first developing country in the world to fulfill the poverty alleviation-related targets in the MDGs, making a huge contribution to poverty alleviation throughout the world. Looking back at the decades of journey of poverty alleviation, I do find some personal experience. In the late 1960s, I was less than 16 years old, and I left Beijing, went to a small village in the northern part of Shanxi province, and worked for 7 years as a farmer. At that time, I was struck by how poor China's rural areas were. I worked extremely hard with fellow villagers, with the only purpose of making our lives better. But at that time, it seemed almost absolutely impossible. For 40 years, I worked in different Chinese counties, cities, provinces, and also in the central government. Poverty alleviation has remained an important part of my work. And it also spent the majority of my energy. I've been to most of the poorest areas in China, including Shanxi, Gansu, Ningxia, Guizhou, Yunnan, Guangxi, Tibet, and Xinjiang. During the past 2 years, I also went to over 10 poor areas. I visited local villages, I chatted with them. I was saddened to see the existing difficulties in their lives, and I was happy to see every step of improvement in their lives. 25 years ago, I worked in Ningde of China's Fujian province, and I remembered a line from an ancient Chinese philosopher. Leaders who are good at governance should treat the people as if parents treating their loved ones, and elderly brothers treating their younger ones. They should feel sorry and saddened when their people suffer from hunger, cold, or pain, and I vividly remember this line. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Chinese people are now working hard to complete the building of a better off society in all respects and to realize the great dream of the renewal of the Chinese nation. The purpose of such a society and this dream is to make our people happy. Despite the huge achievements China has made in its development, China remains the largest developing country in the world. And to narrow the gap between the urban and rural areas and between different regions remains a big challenge for us. This better off society must bring benefits to all Chinese people, and we must leave no one behind. In the next 5 years, we will work to ensure that the existing 7 million poor people under the Chinese poverty line would all be lifted out of poverty. And this will be an important step that China will take to implement the post-2015 development agenda. To win this hard battle, poverty alleviation will be an important part of our economic and social development program. We will vigorously increase investment in poverty alleviation, put in place more policy measures targeted to poor areas and poor people, and increase the pro-poor nature of market mechanisms. We will also work to promote inclusive development of the economy and society and implement more well-targeted development steps. An important step China is taking in poverty alleviation is well-targeted poverty alleviation measures. We are doing so to find the very root causes of poverty and tackle these problems head-on. We will insist in leveraging the institutional advantages of China and ensure that there will be concerted efforts and responsibilities at different levels, including the provinces, cities, counties, townships, and villages. We will take targeted measures in 6 areas involving the poor people to be supported, the programs to be arranged, the funds to be used, the measures to be taken against different households, a person to be sent to different villages, and the effects to be made on poverty alleviation, and to ensure that all these policies would truly benefit the poor people. We will also take differentiated approaches based on different people, different localities, different reasons of poverty, and different types of poverty. We will also alleviate those people through various channels, including supporting production, employment, reallocation, ecological conservation, education, and providing better subsistence support. We will mobilize resources across the society and support the society in adopting various and flexible forms in poverty alleviation. It is more important to teach people how to fish than just to give them fish. Poverty alleviation relies on education. We must ensure that the kids from poor areas will have access to good education, and this is an important task for poverty alleviation. And this is also an important way to ensure that poverty would not be passed on from this generation to the next. We are adopting various measures to ensure that all the kids in poor areas would be well educated, so that just like other kids, they would start running from the same point towards a happy life. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. To eradicate poverty is the common mission of the human being. China, while committing to eradicating poverty domestically, is also actively involved in South-South cooperation. And we have, within our capability, been providing assistance to other developing countries without any political strings attached. We are supporting and helping the developing countries, in particular least developed countries, in eradicating poverty. Over the past 60-plus years, China has provided 166 countries and international organizations with nearly 400 billion worth of assistance and dispatched over 600,000 aid workers, over 700 of whom have laid down their precious lives in aiding the development of other countries. China has also, for 7 times, announced that it would exempt without any conditions the matured intergovernmental interest-free loans owned by heavily indebted poor countries and least developed countries. China actively provides medical assistance to 69 countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean region, and Oceania, and has offered support to over 120 developing countries in the implementation of the MDGs. Poverty alleviation remains the biggest global challenge for our world. The next 15 years will be crucial for China and other developing countries. We need to build consensus, work together to tackle difficulties. We also need to commit ourselves to win-win cooperation and build a community of shared future for all people. We need to bring more benefits to people of all countries, and to this end, I wish to share with you the following proposals. First, we need to accelerate the global poverty alleviation process. To eradicate extreme poverty for all people everywhere, currently measured as people living on less than $1.25 a day in the next 15 years, and that is the first goal of the post-2015 development agenda. To achieve this goal on schedule, developed countries need to step up assistance to developing countries, and developing countries need to find new internal growth momentum for growth. During the recently held United Nations summits, and on behalf of the Chinese government, I announced a number of new steps to help other developing countries develop economy and improve people's lives. China will establish an assistance fund for South-South cooperation with an initial pledge of $2 billion in supporting of developing countries' implementation of the post-2015 development agenda. China will continue to increase investment in the least developed countries, aiming to increase its total to $12 billion by 2030. China will exempt the debt of the outstanding intergovernmental interest-free loans due by the end of 2015, owed by the relevant least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing countries. And in the next 5 years, China will carry out the 6-100 initiative, according to which it will make available to other developing countries 100 poverty reduction programs, 100 agricultural cooperation projects, 100 trade promotion and aid programs, 100 environmental protection and climate change programs, 100 hospitals and clinics, and 100 schools and vocational training centers. China will provide 120,000 opportunities and 150,000 scholarships for citizens of other developing countries to receive training and education in China and help train 500,000 professional technicians for the rest of the developing world. China will also set up an academy of South cooperation and development, and the list goes on. Benevolence, righteousness, loyalty, and credibility. The Chinese people believe that one must have unwearied joy in these good virtues, and Chinese people always value friendship, responsibility, and trustworthiness. To help the poor, to help the people in need, and to be happy to help other people has always been a fine tradition of the Chinese culture. And that is why I'm reaffirming the firm commitment of the Chinese government on global poverty alleviation agenda. Second, we need to step up poverty alleviation cooperation. We need to work together to build a new model for international poverty alleviation exchange and cooperation with win-win cooperation at the core, and that is an important step to remove poverty. China advocates and practices multilateralism. China takes an active part in multilateralism and supports the UN, the World Bank, and others in continuing to play an important role in global poverty alleviation agenda. China will work with all countries to improve global development partnership, advance North-South cooperation, and South-South cooperation. China will work to provide enough resources and a strong momentum for the global poverty alleviation agenda. China will implement the China's African Union Program for strengthening cooperation on poverty reduction, the East Asian Cooperation Initiative on poverty reduction, and make sure that the fruits of development will truly benefit the local people. China will make full use of the International Poverty Reduction Center in China and other platforms for poverty alleviation exchanges, and contribute its own plans and wisdoms, and more effectively encourage other developing countries to share the experience on poverty reduction. Third, we need to achieve diverse, self-generated, and sustainable development. China is committed to supporting other developing countries, removing poverty, and to promote regional cooperation in a wider scope and at a higher level. China will work to align the development strategies, promote practical cooperation on industry, agriculture, human resources development, green energy, and environmental protection, and help other developing countries to transform their resource advantages into development advantages. Recently at the UN, I chaired a high-level roundtable on South-South cooperation, and together with over 20 leaders from other countries and international organizations, we exchanged views on South-South cooperation and reached in-depth agreement. China is ready to work with other developing countries to deepen South-South cooperation on poverty alleviation and bring more benefits to people of all countries. Fourth, we need to improve the international development environment to uphold and develop an open economy, to build an international economic and financial system that is fair, just, inclusive, and orderly, and to foster a favorable external environment for developing countries is an important priority for reducing poverty. China has proposed to build the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road, initiated the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and set up Silk Road Fund with the purpose to support developing countries in cooperating on infrastructure development and helping them strengthen capability of self-generated development. We encourage these countries to get more integrated into global supply chain, industrial chain and value chain, and inject new vitality to global poverty alleviation agenda. Finally, I wish to call upon all of you to join with us to work for a community of shared future of the mankind, where all people are free from poverty and all people enjoy common development. I wish this forum a complete success. Thank you very much.